What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out and supporting this episode of Raised A Geek. This week, we're digging into season 2 of The Last of Us on HBO, a season packed with big swings, heavy themes, and some moments we're still thinking about. Joel's past finally catches up to him. Ellie goes down a dark path, and the show takes some bold storytelling risks. I'm here with my buddies, Tony and Don. How we doing, guys?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? And Tony, my other funnier friend. Just kidding, you're both funny. Everyone's funny. That's the only reason I like you guys, because you're fucking make me laugh. Uh, just kidding. Everything's okay. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Always good to get together with you guys and catch up a little bit and talk about some TV. And yeah, I don't know. Weekend's been good. I've been building a dog ramp the last 3 days, so
Mm.
that's fun.
For your little
Dog
dog?
ramp. For my little dog, but the ramp has to be able to hold humans as well. Because we got a little pillow ramp, but people keep stepping on it like it's a real ramp and someone's gonna
Oh,
die.
in your house.
Yes.
Yes, I've fallen through that before.
I
So,
think I have to.
yes, everyone has. Everyone has except for me and Jess because we're used to it.
Yeah.
So I've been building a dog ramp from scratch, and I'm not a furniture maker, but I just finished the last of it today, and I've got to let some adhesive cure, and it should be good to go. So I felt kind of productive this weekend, I guess.
You finished the last of it, like the last of us. Uh,
Hell of a segue. Let's get started with this show.
Yeah, I don't really have much else going on, but you know what made me feel good? Watching Friendship in theaters.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I want to watch it again. And if you haven't, this is a PSA. Go see Friendship if you can, because
Friendship is
and you watch it with a group of people who are hopefully laughing and enjoying the movie and you have a good time.
that was the thing that I'll say when we came out of there. It was like I think we were talking about that, Don, where it was like nobody in there was confused or annoyed or mad they went to see that movie. Everyone
Everybody
in
knew what they
there
were getting
had
into.
right. It was like, yeah, everyone in here is a fan of this. They know
Well,
about
well,
this.
yeah. Somebody said like opening weekend, you go see that. You're going to see it with a bunch of Tim Robinson sickos like you. So it's
Sure.
you all
Yeah.
know what.
These are my
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it came out the same weekend as Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch. So if you chose to go see Friendship instead of either one of those two movies, like the rest of America, that's your jam.
Well, so you saw Friendship, but you still didn't see Sinners.
Nope.
So that would mean out of you're the last of us to see that movie. Let's get back into this episode.
Last of Us season 2. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. And I have no idea what we're going to spoil. We might spoil everything. We might spoil some things. We might spoil the video game. We might spoil. I just want to throw it all out there. It's just who knows what's going to come out of Don's mouth.
What?
Season 2 of The Last of Us picks up 5 years after Joel's decision to save Ellie, and it wastes no time showing us the emotional weight of that choice. Joel and Ellie are living in Jackson, but their relationship is fractured, and the past is catching up fast. Abby, the daughter of Firefly surgeon Joel killed, tracks him down, setting off a brutal chain of events that changes everything. From there, the season becomes a gut-punching journey of revenge, grief, and blurred morality, as Ellie heads to Seattle in search of justice, or maybe just blood. It's a season full of shifting perspectives, hard choices, and some of the heaviest moments we've seen yet in the series. So we are going to talk about it. What do you guys think of The Last of Us season 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I liked it. I like Last of Us. Yeah, it was good.
All right, Don.
That's yeah.
What's your go-to? It was fine.
No, my go-to is fun or fine. I
Fun.
stick
Yeah,
with
it
the
was, it was fun.
It was fine.
You
It
can't
was
really
fun.
say it was fun.
It was awesome. Yes, I enjoyed it too. For context, this is, I've probably said it before, one of my favorite stories, not just in TV or video games, but like in media.
Mm.
The story of Ellie and Joel and their whole thing, and I've played both video games. Playing the
Multiple
second
times.
playing the second one again for the second time. Got through the first one 3 times. I watched the first season. Me and Chris, I think, a few years ago when the first season was on, we had episode or podcast about every single episode. So we both
Mhm.
kind of really like it. Uh, I will say this second season is to me flawed in some ways, but still highly enjoyable for me. I just like seeing a story that I like so much being adapted, even if the people adapting it make certain choices that are different, and some things like aren't the way you might do them if you were doing it. But you know what? That's just what adaptations are,
Mhm.
especially when it's something that you really love. Like if it's a book or a video game or a comic book or whatever. Like how many times sitting and watching a Marvel movie is like, the comic version of that story was better. That's fine, but you know what? It's just another way to me to get a version of that story, and it's just told in a different way, and that can be okay still. So I don't know. I'll expand on that more as we're talking about it, but I thought as a whole the show was pretty good. I'm a fan still, so that's where I sit right now.
I think part of the reason why like I enjoyed it, it was good. Season one to me was so good. And it's like anything else when your expectations get so high and then on the delivery you're kind of like it was good. But,
Hmm.
like I enjoyed it. I looked forward to it every Sunday when something came up and I couldn't see it. I was mad because I'm like, man, I really wanted to see that tonight. I got to
Mhm.
watch it Monday or Tuesday. So, but it definitely fell short of what season one did. I'll say that.
Well, and it's hard to really even compare them because this story's not done. Like season one was a complete story. You really got a beginning, a middle, and an end of that story, and then it was like the next chapter. Here, I mean, they literally left us cliffhanging, and we don't have no idea when that's actually going to even be remedied. It might be another 4 years before we get back to that moment.
One.
Better not be.
1 year.
We'll
I'll be
see. I
dead
say
in 2 years.
I say I say max two. I think they'll probably stick to a 2 year.
Do you think they'll only do 3 seasons, or do you think they're going to do that fourth?
Craig Mazin has said, who's the co-creator of the show next to Neil Druckmann, said he doesn't think they can tell the whole story in three, so he's thinking four.
Yeah.
So
So
we'll
we
see.
do 3 more days in Seattle, and we end up where we were, and then we wait 2 more years for season four to take us through the end.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a hell of a cliffhanger. 4 years.
No, I
Season
think
season one was put together different though.
yeah,
Mhm.
Season one was the
a
first
package
game.
deal. Yeah.
First season was the first game beginning to end
Mhm.
because they didn't know they would ever. You don't know you're
Yeah.
going to be renewed when you're making something, so
Right.
you couldn't leave season one on a cliffhanger in the middle of the first game. It's like we got greenlit for this show. Let's do the first game in a 10 episode season of television. This season is they're a little more comfortable. You have a little, probably some guarantees from HBO that yeah, we'll let you tell your whole story. Okay, so season two is 7 episodes. You know what I mean? It's a big difference.
Yeah.
But I get your point.
But it's hard to like fully compare them without having the full arc. But yes, season one was substantially better than this one. I had mixed moments. I had some times where I really enjoyed things that they did, and then other things that I just couldn't get past. And since the opening scene, I was sitting at Don's house. We watched the premiere together. The opening scene happened, and I said, "Uh-oh." And I repeatedly, and it was a mantra that I kept telling myself as I watched this show for 7 weeks, which was the game still exists. The game still exists. The game still exists. You can go play the game. Just watch this show. And I struggled with that on and off throughout just because I do love this story, much like Don. I enjoyed playing through The Last of Us Part 2, which is a divisive game in its own right to some people. And that game made me feel things no entertainment like property is really ever done. Like I was emotionally invested in that story. So I struggled with some of those changes that they made to make it more TV friendly, more modern audience friendly. It felt like at times they were just doing things that I just didn't quite grasp, except for this is what we do on TV. So let's just do that. And a lot of those came down to Ellie and choices that they made her, this poor girl do.
So
Well, I
what
want to
was the
hear
open?
you.
I don't remember the opening scene.
The opening
That
scene was
you wrote.
showing Abby and the Fireflies and her crew with the at basically burying all the people that Joel killed, and then basically straight up saying, "I'm we're going to kill Joel."
Okay,
That is all information that you don't know in the game. That's
gotcha.
all stuff that's pieced together. That's all. They don't dump all of that on you right as the game opens up. You don't know anything about Abby. You don't know anything about any of that stuff. It comes
Do you
in
think that's
pieces.
something where they felt like the viewers wouldn't learned that on their own that weren't gamers, so they had to say, "Hey, we need to give them this information up front."
Possibly, but it takes away
Not to
that
say that I don't.
reveal.
I hate saying when people say like, "Oh, they feel like the audience is too stupid to figure it out on their own." It's like, well, that's just an excuse for poor writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it was it something along those lines where it's like, we don't have time to explain this to them if we want to get to this point in episode two,
Yeah.
so we need to push this
And
now.
possibly since they were going to that moment in episode two, but even having it be a reveal that she reveals to Joel like she did, why couldn't we be there for that reveal? Why couldn't that be a moment to us, a shock moment versus
Well,
us already
Those
knowing who she was and what she wants? I don't know. It
okay.
was just a weird thing. Like I said, I struggled with a lot of weird stuff. So,
My thing, just like before we even get into the show, I understand what you're saying on that. My thing with that is it was a small change to me that didn't affect the outcome.
right.
Just because we know Abby right off the bat is looking for Joel
Hmm.
doesn't make his demise any less impactful.
No.
Because just because because as a viewer, if you haven't played the game, you don't know Joel, what happens to Joel, like which we get to, which everyone knows. Like, watch the show by now, you know what happens to Joel early on in the show and early on in the game too.
Hmm.
Um, just because you know she's looking for Joel doesn't mean that you're like automatically, oh, wants to kill him, he's gonna die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It still makes the moment when it actually does happen, like, whoa, they actually did it. You know?
Yes. No, it took nothing away. It really
Mhm.
took nothing away. It was just a thing in my brain where I was just hmm.
why are
Like
they
right
dumping all
off the
this?
bat, they already changed something. So then I was already like, I was already curious of what they were going to do with Abby in the season. Abby, because of what she does, is extremely hated character, whether you think you're justly or not. So it's just like, how are they going to do Abby in this medium, where in the video game you get more time to spend with the characters, and there's a lot of little things that you get to do in the game. I mean, even playing the openings half an hour of the game, you already have a section where you're playing as Abby. So you get to be Abby, whether you like it or not. So you just have different relationships with characters in the game. So it was always kind of a how are they doing this thing. So it was just a change and it happened immediately. There were a lot more egregious changes to me than that opening scene.
Sure. And I want to know them all so I can tell you why you're wrong. Just kidding.
All right, well, I'm gonna be a dad. Go, Don, go. But yeah, I overall I did enjoy the season. I'm sad that I got nothing to watch this week, that I don't have it. But I mean, the first real big moment was Joel.
Episode 2.
Episode two, they jumped right to it and got right to Abby doing her thing, and all of a sudden Pedro Pascal is no longer number
Mhm.
one billing on The Last of Us for 5 of the 7
Yes.
episodes. How did that
Uh,
impact, I guess, differently? Because Tony, you didn't play the game, right?
No, but I knew it was coming.
Okay.
it's hard to
Just
avoid.
yeah, for sure. But even before, I think when season one ended,
Hmm.
I had already knew because the grumblings were starting of like, oh my God, well, does everyone know what happens in Last of Us 2?
Yeah.
And I think just small talk about games over the years, talking to you guys about it, I think I already kind of knew it in the back of my head. So it wasn't like a shock or like, what are they doing? It's like, oh yeah, that happens in that game. So
Yeah.
didn't make
Yeah.
seeing it in real time any less brutal.
No, they did it
Mhm.
well.
They did, and obviously I didn't find it shocking in in the show because I'd already experienced it in the game. I did find it very shocking in the game because there was this expectation, I think, when the game came out that you're like, oh, fantastic, another Ellie and Joel adventure.
Hmm.
What kind of trouble are they going to get into this time around? Ooh, yeah. Uh, but in the game, in part two, you never played as Joel in the beginning. He was kind of like a side character, so you're thinking in your mind, okay, maybe the roles are reversed this time. This time you're controlling Ellie. Maybe Joel will be your partner following you
Hmm.
around. They kind of did that more with why can't I think of the girlfriend's name? I should know it.
Dina.
Dina. Yeah, Dina was kind of running around as your partner with Ellie. You're like, all right, well, Joel's off doing this other thing. We'll get to Joel. And then, like, yeah, they kill him pretty quickly in the game and on the show. So I think it's a bold choice by Neil Druckmann and then also by Craig Mazin, then with the show, sticking with it, not changing things. I listened to their podcast that they do a little bit, and they were both talking about, they actually did sit down and consider, well, should we even do it again? Can we change it? Or can we change when it happens? Should we do it later? Should we stick with the game and do it early? They stuck with the game and did it early on. Don't let you get too comfortable. So I think it's like I said, a bold storytelling choice if that's what you want to do and that's the story you want to tell. Because just doing another Joel and Ellie adventure would have kind of been an easy way out, and you make $1
Hmm.
billion and you make everybody happy, and then you could do part three and part four, and it's just like the new Uncharted series or something where it's just having these adventures
It
with
just
these
becomes The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
yeah, and like you could have done that and just kept having different adventure of the week, but they chose a different path. The reception of it hasn't always been positive by gamers and viewers of the show. I don't think. I think the show, while still successful for HBO, lost a lot of viewers, is from what I saw. After that, because similar to The Walking Dead, when they killed Glenn, people were like, I don't want to watch this anymore. You killed somebody I really like. That's, I don't know. That's TV, man. I don't know what you want. Not everything is
Written for you to your
yeah,
exact
not everything is
specifications.
flowers and rainbows and
Right.
happy. This is a sad, dramatic, scary world where it's like, okay, they just told me nobody's safe. Anybody can die in here. So yeah, I think it did what it meant to do. They had a purpose in mind. So yeah.
It's the story. I mean, the story of The Last of Us 2, season 2, doesn't have any weight if you keep Joel around. Joel has to go to trigger Ellie to do what she does, to trigger Abby to do what she does. Like, these characters exist based on this decision, and it's all fallout from Joel running around that hospital at the end. It would be crazy if they didn't. Came same with Walking Dead. Like, when you're adapting source material, you kind of have to stick with those beats. You're either going to piss off the hardcore fans of that or not. But I still like how they did it with, you still, especially if you didn't know, you still were like, is Ellie's gonna stop him. Like,
Hmm.
Ellie was sneaking up on him. She was listening to everything. She's gonna save him, scare everybody away, and then they'll go from there. And where do we go? And just it's just one of those times where it didn't work out that way, and it's still a
Yeah,
heavy scene. And I thought they did it well. Um,
agreed.
So that was the big one. And then we got to spend a little bit more time mourning that loss, which was kind of cool. In the game, you just kind of jump right to, I don't know if they do a time skip or she just goes straight out.
Yeah, there was more added in the show, like her going into his house and going through his things and kind of having memories. She did that a little bit in the game, but not to the same level. And waking up screaming from it still being in her head and her recovery in the hospital, and
Hmm.
uh, that did give it a little more impact. I'll say they did a good job, and just the Joel death scene period was pretty damn close to the way it was in the game. Her being held down and having to watch, and telling him, like, begging for him to get up, and him still trying to, even though he's been
Brain
beaten
damage.
and
Yeah.
yeah, like you know on the edge of death, but still trying to move for her because she's asking him to, and he
Hmm.
can't. So yeah, it's very very impactful scene, I think, and is probably turned a lot of people off, like we said. But that's just part of it. It's a brutal story and a brutal world.
Yeah, I can't talk too much. I didn't make it much past The Walking Dead of that moment either, but so I can't necessarily talk, but it definitely has me, like I said, I feel like it's a catalyst for this story, so I'm
That's like
glad they stuck with
that's
it.
that's the closest comparison, I think.
No,
The
100%.
Glenn death of people just
Nope.
losing a character that they like and being like, I'm not doing this anymore. Some people were pointing to Game of Thrones as something similar with Ned Stark, but that was a little different. That was just like you still didn't know him well enough
Yeah.
yet. That was
That
in
was more,
season.
yeah.
No,
That was just
nobody.
more shocked that they did it.
Yeah, the internet hadn't fallen in love with Ned Stark, and I can't remember like what's his name, Bean, the actor.
Sean
Sean,
Bean.
They don't love Sean Bean like they love Pedro Pascal right now.
yeah.
Right.
So that was
But
shocking, and
it
people
just
were
had
like,
that
"What the
same
F?"
feeling. It just had that same feeling of it's about to happen, and you as a viewer, you're like, they're gonna stop this.
Yeah.
Right.
Like something's gonna stop this. Ellie's gonna
Joffrey's gonna
stop
call it
this.
off. Someone's gonna do something different. Ellie's
Like
gonna get up. Yeah.
they said they're gonna behead Ned Stark. No, no, somebody at the last second is gonna come in and stop this. Like
Oh!
that sword's going down. It's not stopping.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. I remember I wasn't even watching the show when that happened, and I heard the world
Yeah.
Gasp.
cry out in agony. Like, what just happened? TV shows aren't supposed to do this. Well,
Hmm.
HBO.
the HBO and really kind of almost set that standard of anything can happen. That I felt like that was like the first time that really happened.
It kind of was. I still remember sitting and watching that and just being like, that didn't really happen, did it? Like they're not doing that. That's the only person on the show anybody knows by their face.
Yeah.
Like there's no way.
Hmm.
But yeah.
So then we moved ahead to Seattle and we had 3 fun-filled days in Seattle, meeting Isaac and the Wolves and the Seraphites. And then
Real
the
quick,
show,
just want to mention
yeah.
that Jackson was totally destroyed.
Oh yeah, I loved. Thank you.
No problem.
I love that this show did a White Walker invasion better than Game of Thrones.
Kinda.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that comparison, and
Well, it
yeah,
wasn't dark. It wasn't dark as shit. It was lit. Like that was
yeah,
like
But yeah, that
all
whole
because
scene was
and like Abby basically got 70% of Jackson murdered by infected. So I
it's
mean
true.
that was
she woke him up.
on her for waking them up, but that was a cool scene.
That whole episode, the fact that dread building of what's going to happen with Joel and that group and the people who were out caught in the storm, and then just the wave that was running towards the horde that was coming towards Jackson, and then piling that all on top of each other, that was awesome. That I mean, that honestly was probably the greatest one of the greatest episodes. I don't know if that flashback episode could maybe hang in there, but I mean, I really
Oh.
think episode 2 was one of the strongest episodes that they did all season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think two probably was, and maybe that's because this isn't an infected video game and an infected TV show, and we actually got infected.
Yeah, we didn't
Mhm.
see a lot more infected after this, so
Right. Sprinkled in maybe, but like for the
Re
most part, that
really
was
the only other scene that they were in was the sewer when the wolves were chasing
oh, that was good
Dina
too.
and
That was
Ellie in
good
the
too.
subway and stuff. And outside
Subway
of that, I think
scene,
even
yeah.
after that scene, I don't think we ever saw the infected again.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of had the scene with the stalkers where you introduced them, and
Oh God.
they were coming after
Oh, I hated that scene so much.
Ellie and Dino. That's the infected who are smart and can like hide and sneak up
Okay.
on you. And
So I wanted to ask you the smart ones because she ran into one of those last
first
season, right?
first
Or first
First
episode.
episode.
first episode of
Okay.
that season, yeah.
So I played I played the first game. I didn't finish it. I got to, I don't know, some part with clickers where I was in a locker room and it was really hard and annoying, and I think I just
Rage quit.
stopped. Probably. But so the smart ones, are they infected a different way? Are these the ones that are breathing in the spores and that's why they're changing differently? Or are they just
There's
changing
an
differently for whatever reason?
they never really get into why. All you really know is like, and I was just playing the season 2, and there's like a note you pick up, in a video game where you just pick
Yeah.
up random papers talking about like the evolution of the infected, and there's like 4 stages. They don't tell you how you get from one stage to the other. You just
Mhm.
know that at some point they can evolve.
Yeah, and I always took it as evolution because like it's been 25 years. So I mean that's a long time of just these infected being around. So if they're not going to change or adapt, then they would go extinct. So that's how I always just told myself.
Yeah, you got like your normal stalker or your normal infected who's just like in the horde, the people who just
Yeah.
run aimlessly. And then you have the other ones we know with kind of like their face looks like a flower. I can't think of what they call them in the
Clickers
game.
or the
Clickers.
bloaters?
Clickers is correct. And they're a little more dangerous, a little more like can kill you a lot easier than the stalkers, and then like the big one is the bloater, who is the one that Tommy fought by himself. Tommy got his moment, which was a cool change from the game because in the game Tommy is with Joel when he dies in the resort.
Hmm.
He's the one there instead of Dina. But in this show, they changed it so Tommy is like kind of protecting Jackson. So he got his
Oh, so Tommy is there when Joel dies in the game?
yeah
Wow.
It changes a lot.
That's a big change for
yeah
the
they
show.
they knock. I mean, it's the same result. Like they knock him
Yeah.
out so he doesn't see it.
Oh,
Um,
okay. All right.
but him and Joel were out on patrol, and they're the ones who saved Abby. Uh, and yeah, they just changed it to Dina.
Okay.
But yeah, the scene in Jackson was totally cool. Like not something from the game that they added that was a good addition, I think. It was just kind of gave you some good action, like a good action
Yeah,
sequence.
it showed the power, the ability, the bonus of being able to tell a story outside of the main character's perspectives. That's something you really couldn't do in the game because all your main characters were over here. So that's where you followed. So the fact that we're not playing a game and we're able to just watch, um,
In the game, does Jackson get attacked?
Not
I
like
like
that,
that.
no.
Okay.
Or maybe not at all. I
I
don't
don't
think.
remember it at all because I
See,
mean, no one would
and
have been there.
now I didn't
Right.
play part two, but like that was a really good part of this season.
Yeah.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that's a huge change.
Yeah, it was a huge change, but it was one that was, I think, for the better because there were a lot of other characters that you just really like when you're watching a TV show, where in a video game, you really are tied to whatever your one or two characters,
Yeah.
yeah, whoever you're being at that time
Sure.
and what they see, and that's what you're attached to. And here we like Tommy, we like Marie, we like the people of Jackson because we've seen more of them. They're their own characters. So,
Even in
yeah.
the game, like this game expanded a little bit on the Seth character.
Hmm.
Well, he's the one who says a slur to them
Yeah.
in the dance when it's Ellie and Dina kiss. And in the game, they don't show that. They just show like him apologizing for it later. So you just get the idea. But in this, they showed the scene, but they expanded on that character. I loved the scene with him in the um, town meeting where they were deciding
Hmm.
whether or not to go avenge Joel, and he just went off on the whole town, like
Yeah.
saying, "You bunch of cowards! You're just waiting for it to be you. You just want to be the next victims." I was like, "Seth, you're an asshole. Ellie hates you for a reason because you're a bigot, but you're being pretty awesome right now."
You're showing some sort of growth, but I'm still mad.
All right,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, same thing when yeah, and then the follow-up scene the next morning or later that night of him knowing she was gonna go and he swaps rifles with her as like
hmm
a his formal apology, you know,
yeah.
was cool. Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
want to know, Ellie's immune.
Yeah.
So why did that give her superpowers that she could get bit over and over again and she's okay?
What do you mean?
She Her whole plan when those little smart things were going to chase her and Dina was, Dina, you go hide in that cage because it's okay if I get bit. And they show her on the ground screaming in pain as three of them are just chowing down on her. And she's okay. Jesse
Oh,
showed up and it's just like, hey. And she's just like, hey, yeah. No, I'm cool.
Well,
oh.
I can get bit to shit. It doesn't matter.
I don't know if she was getting bit to shit. I know she was being attacked. I know she's been bitten a few times, but
Are you saying
also,
she should have bled out from being bitten?
Yes.
Do
but
they
here's
do the mutants have like really long teeth or the
that's
infected are like
that's that's what I was gonna say. It's the same thing as being bit by a
it's
person.
like if I bite you, Chris,
You're not gonna die.
you won't
If
die.
three people are ripping at me like a zombie,
But it's just me biting you with my teeth.
but if you were ripping out skin, people die in movies all the time by people getting their neck ripped out.
If she got bit in the throat and wasn't going
Okay.
like dying, I'd be like, "Hey, what the heck? How is she? Her jugular just got ripped out. But
So
she got
then
bit in the arm."
I don't think they've ever showed us that the infected in this are what you think of as like a
zombies.
super zombie who's gonna rip your neck out. It's a person who's biting you. They just happen to be zombified, but they're not like ripping guts out of your body and shit. Like I don't know about, we've never seen someone get ripped apart by a horde. We've seen people get infected because they're bitten,
Yeah.
but it's like a person who just
Yeah,
has a disease.
that's their whole thing is just to infect, right? That's their MO.
Yeah.
is the spread. So just let her be the hero in that scene, Chris.
No, I don't want to.
Chris don't like him. Chris don't like Ellie. Let's just put it out there.
I didn't like Ellie in the game. So I just don't like Ellie as a character. I know. If I had my Team Abby shirt on, I would have it. But I uh I struggled with Ellie's decisions, and what I realized when I was hitting the end of this season, like watching the finale, I had a realization that probably changed a little bit for me. Was that one of the moments one of the changes that I have to realize is when you're playing a video game, no matter what, you kind of feel like a badass because you're going to get through whatever moment, whether you're being stalked by, you know, creatures or people. Even if you die 12 times, you still come out of that going, yeah, I just killed all of those people, or I just did this. And in the show, you can push Ellie through scenarios where she necessarily doesn't get through it like a badass. So she can be scared. She can be a lot more emotion that she can show that a video game can't do. And I think when I kind of made that realization, like, well, we could just push her through whatever, and she can just like fumble her way through this whole revenge tour, and then and we just watch it. So once I had that realization, I was like, I guess that's better. But I struggle with this Ellie. Like she just seems so ill prepared or ill, like she doesn't even want to be on this journey. Like I struggle to believe that Ellie wants revenge. She's cracking jokes. She's
Okay, but in the game, which I just started again,
yeah.
she has those moments too. She's not. I know me and you like categorized it as well. As soon as Joel dies, Ellie just becomes this machine
Yeah.
on a mission.
They've told us that at the end. At the end of the episodes, they've said she's a force of nature, and then she's going in the next episode. She's just like, oh, and I'm just like, wait, this isn't a force of nature. She's like, I understand she's a kid. I understand those things, but it just,
But okay, but even just now playing the game again, she's having moments still of a regular life. Like her and Dina are still riding on horseback. They're still kind of talking like normal people.
mhm.
Uh, they still go into the music shop and she plays
Yeah.
"Take on Me" on the acoustic guitar and is still.
If you hated that, Chris, I got a real problem with you.
No, of course
That
I didn't
scene
hate that.
was fucking awesome.
Uh,
It was
so
fantastic.
It's always crazy to me that that scene is optional in the game. Like you could easily miss that, and that was always wild to me.
I think
I'm
us being game
force everyone to
players,
watch that.
I think us being game players, you have in your mind like this. I want to see this thing that I experienced, but we have to be more patient with the show. I think because the show's not moving at the same pace as we played the game. We beat the game in a month. Like
Yeah.
this is a show that's gonna get to its result in the next 4 years, like you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she's only exacted revenge so far on one person of Abby's crew. Well, three, correct. Okay, three. But the first one took a minute to
Or
get there, and like the I think the rage she showed against Nora down there in that basement is like a good sign of okay, this is
Yeah.
the revenge Ellie I'm kind of looking for. So my point
And
being just like give it time.
like I
You're in
said,
a
I'm being a
rush.
grump.
You're in
Like
a
I said, there were
rush.
moments of this. There's large parts of me that really didn't enjoy this season, and a lot of it came down to just the portrayal of Ellie.
Well,
I never knew how she was going to do this season after watching last season, and even watching this season, I'm just like, meh.
is it just because she's too small or looks young or what's the deal? Because I'm getting a different vibe that she's actually doing well
Yeah,
at this. I feel like she's delivering the lines, she's showing the emotion.
she's doing what she's being asked to do. It's a writing thing more than an acting thing. I guess I'll walk back a little bit.
so you hate Bella Ramsey.
No, I don't hate Bella Ramsey. I never liked her cast as Ellie. I wanted Caitlin Dever to be cast as Ellie.
Who's
And then
Caitlin
they cast
Dever?
her as Abby, which is a weird casting
Oh.
anyway, but I'm just happy she's there. So,
The thing that was hilarious to me is I heard on the podcast I'm talking what put Caitlin Dever on their radar for Ellie was she was supposed to play Ellie when this was going to be a movie, but it was like
okay.
years ago, and the movie fell apart. And they were like, yeah, obviously, she kind of aged out of the Ellie role,
Yeah.
play young Ellie, but she looks like part two Ellie a lot.
Yeah, she
Which
does.
is kind of like sometimes like, If only what could have been. But I'm not speaking as a Bella Ramsey hater because I think she's, I don't know. I hear Ellie when she talks. Some of the writing choices, I'll agree with you. I'm not saying this
My
is perfect. Some of the writing choices are a little rough
yeah,
sometimes with
my
her, but
my writing choice, keeping my I guess my biggest problem, and it comes straight down to writing, is that you could tell that the writing is trying to make sure she stays likable. So they go heavy with her, they go dark with her, but then they always bring her back to this, like, I'm gonna be a dad, and what's this and what's that, and cracking jokes, and like just kind of being an idiot in a lot of ways too, of just like, hey, I don't know how triangles work, and like that whole scene was so cringe to me of just listening to her do her thing. So it was just like a lot of it was the writing of just trying to keep her likable, because if she goes full vengeance, she's not likable anymore.
is
And I
that the
wanted
goal?
her to
Is
go
that the
full
goal
vengeance.
though? Is that the
Huh?
Yeah,
goal
do
to
you
keep
want her
her?
to go full dark?
Yeah, that's what she did in the game.
She still didn't like. I didn't play part two. I
I
only played a
That's
little.
my impression. It's been 4 years since I played the game. I played the opening again, and I see where Don's talking about. I haven't gotten back to Joel's demise and where they're going past that, so I don't remember that. I remember every decision Ellie made in the game made me not like her.
I think you can find something about every character in this show to be like, what a dickhead. And that's
100%.
kind of the point of
I
this
know.
is like there's not a hero here. There's not a good
No,
person.
Jesse was likable.
Jesse was
Oh,
likable.
poor Jesse.
Jesse was likable, and he
I
just
did
kind of
like
was unfortunate.
That was
I did
so fast,
I love that it was fast. Like it was just done so well.
dude. It was just like
yeah.
through that door, gone. It was
Mhm.
crazy.
That was straight out of the game, very
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Uh we didn't talk much about Dina. I do like I think the Dina in this show is an upgrade to the game actually. I find her more engaging and a little more likable. Granted, some of the scenes they took liberties with her and Ellie. The timelines kind of shifted a
Yeah.
little bit. Like they fall in love. They fall in love in the game before Joel's death,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of what Chris is talking about. Like the tone of Ellie and Dina falling in love after Joel dies seems a little bit off because Ellie shouldn't be in a mindset to fall in love.
She
Yeah.
should still be grieving a little bit now. I can see
She,
that.
she should be grieving and she should just be like, I can't worry about a girlfriend right now. I'm trying to avenge my father.
Yeah.
In the game, they kind of established that before, which I think is probably the smarter choice. But
Yeah.
like I said, adaptations are hard.
Yeah, they are. There's really nobody likable in this game. Abby's not likable. Joel really ultimately wasn't likable. Like, I mean, yes, they had him, especially in that first season, as that father role, so you liked him. But if you really step back, and especially once you get to that hospital and he's offing everybody, like that's a
I think
despicable
that's
thing.
the point of the game, though,
Yeah. No one's
is
likable.
if you were in this world, what would you do? What if you do what you'd have to do, and you wouldn't be a good person?
Right.
Because here's the thing: if you all three main people, Joel, Ellie, Abby, right? Those are the three that this world centers around.
Yeah.
Joel, what he did in the end of game one and the end of season one, he killed a bunch of people because his daughter was gonna die.
Yeah.
Put yourself in his shoes. Would you do something like that? Your wife, your daughter, your whoever?
Yeah.
Probably. Like, I don't give a fuck about them. I care about this person.
Right.
Does that make you an asshole to all those people whose lives you affected? Yes, it does. You're their villain. You're the bad guy.
Sure.
Abby, your dad gets murdered. Are you going to track down the person who did it and you don't give a fuck about them? Of course you are. Ellie, your dad gets murdered. Are you hunting down the person who did that? Of course you are.
Right.
It makes you an asshole to them. It makes you
Yeah.
their villain. So it's like
Yeah.
everybody has,
Sure.
you know,
I mean,
100%.
even Dina, they told a little bit about Dina's backstory about
Mhm.
when she was a kid and what happened to her family, and she said she'd absolutely have done the same thing.
Yeah.
She
Right.
did the same thing right then and there, but that she would have scoured the earth to find out, whoever did it and whatever. So, like, anyone would probably do it. I do find it interesting, like, Joel murdered all those people. And so, what I wanted to ask you guys about end of season one, he kills all the doctors, all the fireflies, everybody there. He finally fesses up in one of these episodes this season when they flat out have the conversation and she asks and he answers everything truthfully. And one of the questions she asked was, would it have worked? And he says yes when she's talking about where they're going to make a cure with her. So
Mhm.
is that in the game? And was it definitive that it would have worked? Because I thought it was kind of a coin toss.
Yeah, I
I
don't
th-
remember it being
I-
definitive.
no,
But
I
he
think
did this season. He did say that, right? He said yes.
I think he thinks I think they want you to assume that his character is assuming yes, it would have worked because
Okay.
of the things the Fireflies told him, but in the game they never said that it would have 100% worked.
Okay.
That was another choice
Yeah.
for this adaptation that I think
Gotcha.
That's Neil Druckmann, the game creator, kind of putting his 2 cents in there and being like, yeah, it would have worked, but
Well, that
it,
makes, I mean, and that makes what Joel did harder, a harder decision, a more selfish decision, a more assholish decision.
Oh,
Like
sure.
that
Save the world.
compounds everything that you feel about Joel.
Right.
It adds 10
Yeah.
pounds of shit on top of it.
Save your daughter. Save the entire world. Save humanity.
Yeah.
right.
But then
You're losing your second daughter, basically.
now you're saving Jackson because you don't want to bring somebody in there that's infected to say goodbye to his wife, and you're saving that community and not the, so maybe that's him trying to make amends for,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, there's, I mean,
throwing the
the
cure.
things that the people do, it makes sense. I understand why they do what they do in the moment. I understand Ellie had to rat on Joel to cause that rift. I understood that Ellie was super pissed and didn't give a shit. She was ready to burn the whole world down, so she didn't care who she hurt along the way. They've said a million times she's a force of nature, and you can't, once you get in her path, you're stuck. But then I just struggle with her doing that. Even when Jesse, before he ran and did his thing and was like, I came back because I knew if anything happened to me, you would burn the world down to find me. And I'm just like, I don't feel like that Ellie would. I feel like she would run into a room and get shot. Like, I feel like the way that Ellie is moving forward in this, she is not capable of what she's trying to do. And if she would run into a door, if Dina, how many times did Dina stop her from doing shit that would have got her immediately killed? And
She
I
did.
understand that's what I was talking about with like being a video game. When you're playing as Ellie, you have to get through these things. So no matter what, she seems like a badass. In the show, she doesn't have to actually get through anything. We just need the script to get her through it. And then we're always gonna see the light on the other side of the tunnel because it's a TV show. In a video game, you rarely fail in a video game and still move forward, but in a show you can fail and still move forward. And I feel like Ellie is the Jesse running through a room and just getting shot in the face because she's not thinking things through. So when those lines are said, it's like I know what you want me to think of Ellie. I know you want me to think of Ellie as this like unstoppable machine set on vengeance, but then I look at like what they have her doing and I'm just like they don't line up to me.
I
I
feel
don't
like
even
that's what I would be if I was like in this unstoppable world of vengeance. It's like I'm not an action hero. I'm gonna do stupid things and make
I know.
mistakes.
right. Like
I'm
I think
I
also
know.
I also got a weird dark sense of humor when I'm messed up in the head, so I'm probably gonna crack some strange jokes too. So
I
I don't
also
know.
That's
think
true.
I also think we think of her as supposed to be portrayed as this unstoppable force because we played the game
Right.
where you're literally stabbing 100 people in the neck
Yeah.
and like shooting people in the head with shotguns and killing people with
I
hatchets.
know.
They're not putting that in the game. Like like
No.
her sitting in the scene with where she has to take her shirt off and she has um scars all over her back and Ellie's kind of looking at her, or not Ellie, Dina is taking care of her and stuff. That's a game thing because you've already played sequences where you're fighting 100 people's like that. Ellie is fucked up.
Yeah.
This Ellie hasn't done that. So I think that's the show trying to earn.
Yeah.
It's trying to make you believe that Ellie has earned these scars where they
Right.
haven't showed us that, because in the game there's actual gameplay, but there's
Right.
not.
No.
This is a 7 hour show compared to
100%.
a
Right.
100%.
30 hour
60 hours
game.
of gameplay. Right.
And that's been my problem the whole time is and why I've had to keep doing the mantra of there's still the game. You can still go play the game. Just
Yeah.
watch the show for what they're giving you. When I had that realization, pretty much what you just said at right there, I thought of that after the finale. I was watching the 10-minute, behind the scenes thing, and that popped in my head, and I was like, you know what? that makes sense, and it almost added this like layer of calm that I had, even though it might not sound like it for this last 40 minutes that we've been talking, but it added this layer of like, okay, I need to just watch what they're giving me and see
You
what
got to
it
do that
is.
sometimes. You got to do that
Yeah,
sometimes.
I've had to really struggle, but as Don said in the beginning, this is one of my this story means something to me. Like I felt emotional beats to these characters, to this story. So seeing it change, like I know Don said this before, where it's like you want people who didn't play the game to still experience something that you love. And I don't feel like they're experiencing what I love. so so then I'm like, it makes me frustrated in that way. Like I
I
want
get that.
Tony to feel, I want you to be able to watch and feel the things that I felt playing through this game. And I don't feel like it's there. And then that's just a frustration. But I need to let that go. But
'Cause it's just a different way of telling it.
and
It has to be a different way of telling it.
and the fact that I can get so riled up about Ellie's decisions and what she's doing shows that this I'm emotionally invested in the story, whether or not I want to admit it or not.
I think what you have lost in the show from the game, you've also gained in the show from the game with some of the choices that they've taken.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Where we said we got this season, we got the Jackson falling episode.
Hmm.
Um, I cannot remember the characters' names from season one. The couple, the two guys,
Oh, Bill, and Frank.
Hmm.
completely added for the show, correct? The characters existed, but that entire episode, which is probably the best episode of the season,
Yeah.
Yeah.
added to it. So I'll say that if you ever are frustrated again, just think about like, yeah, but I did get this out of it
Mm.
because they decided to add that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, it's probably something I need to watch again, knowing what they did. It is probably a show that I need to watch a second time and be like, okay, let's
Yeah.
watch the show for what the show is. And am I
But it,
mad at it because,
but it sounds like you're already really frustrated with the main character anyway.
well,
So
yeah, going in, my biggest thing, and it's frustrating to me, is my biggest thing was I was like, okay, how are they going to do Abby this season? Because Abby is a extremely divisive character depending on That's
She
why there
is.
are Team Abby and Team Ellie shirts. That's why there's, like that's a whole thing. And there's people who quit playing this game when they were forced to be Abby after she killed Joel because they're like, I'm not playing as her. So that's a whole thing, that a culture that exists. And I was like, how are they gonna portray Abby? And the fact that Abby really wasn't in this season was kind of like almost a letdown to me, because I'm like, okay, now we have to wait another 2 years to get back to Abby. How are people even going to feel about this character 2 years removed from seeing this horrendous act of her killing Joel? How do we jump into season 3 at this point? Like,
Well,
basically, it seems like it's going to be the Abby show. Are
well,
people going to show up for that? Like, what are we doing? Like,
it's funny that we talk about all this, that, and the other, and whose perspective. It's like if The Last of Us started in the hospital and you were playing as Abby, um,
we would have sympathized with her
100%. And we'd
easy.
be like, I gotta go after this guy, and if his
Like,
crazy
yeah,
little daughter, you know what I mean?
like
well,
I said, if the game,
You
if
take
it would have
any
been
character
Abby's
in this
game,
game
right,
and
right.
just go from a starting point from their perspective and be like, well, I'm with them
Mhm.
and I'm against everybody else because they did this.
well, the problem is that there are people who can't make that connection. There are people who are like, no, Joel is the hero, and what he did was justified to save
Sure,
Ellie, and that's all
sure,
they care about. Anything else and normally in normal storytelling perspectives, that season would have ended. We would have never looked back at that hospital. We would
right.
have never thought about the consequences of those actions. We would have moved on to the next Joel and Ellie adventure that had nothing to do with anything that happened in that first season. In normal shows, that's how normal TV, that's how normal storytelling works. You just move
Well,
forward.
that's how normal video games work too.
That too.
Your hero who killed all the people who he killed, you aren't thinking about their daughter, you aren't
Nope.
thinking about their wife and their son, but this creator of this game said, I want you to think about
Sure.
Yeah.
the people that he killed, what their family would feel and do about it. And enact their revenge, something you never get in other ways.
Right.
So you
And
have
I
to
loved
look
it.
at, yeah, you have to look at it from a lot of different viewpoints to kind of get the full picture of things.
Which I liked, and I hope the show can do that because we never really shifted back to Abby and her perspective after this. I sat at work and listened to water cooler talk of people talk about this show and talk about how much they hate Abby and how
You
much they
guys still
can't
have water
wait to see.
coolers?
No, but I was just, throwing out that dated reference.
The kitchenette.
The kitchenette, standing in the kitchen, just hanging out.
We were
But
talking by the Keurig.
talking about the Keurig, yeah, we do got one of those. So, but that was all I heard was just, I hate Abby. I can't wait for her to get what's coming to her. And
Now,
it was just like,
first 5 episodes of next season, after they see everything that she's been through, they'll sympathize. And
but will they
hopefully
show up
next,
for it?
yeah,
I'm-
probably. What else are they gonna watch?
And the ones that made it all the way through season two will probably, yeah, exactly. I'm
You know,
sure. I'm sure it'll be fine.
You put
And I'm
something
not
on,
worried about that. I'm not worried about the viewership. That's
no, you
not
put
my
something
problem.
on,
That's their
put
problem.
something on HBO, people would watch it.
yeah.
It's true. What's on HBO tonight?
I don't know. The rehearsal.
Still haven't
Is that
started.
still over?
I think that's still going.
No, I'm almost done with season one. I can't stop watching it. It's awkward as hell.
It's
I
anxiety. It's cringy as fuck.
I have
Yeah.
never watched it.
You
I
should.
never even heard of it. But the other day, Don was like, I watched the first episode of the rehearsal. I'm like, what's that? He was like, just check it out. And then I checked it out and I was like, this is weird and this is very uncomfortable.
And you got sucked in.
Kind of. I just kind of kept wanting to watch episodes. But yeah, HBO. Yeah, good. But yes, I don't know where we're even at talking about The Last of Us. We went on some crazy,
No, we talked about the important things. I mean,
important things.
I think
Um,
I think all in all, this show was divisive, kind of like this conversation's been at times. But I think that's part of it. It makes it a, if you're talking about a show, something about what they're doing matters.
Yeah.
And
But in
I don't know.
the second game was divisive. The second game create people. You say The Last of Us 2 to people who played the game, and they're going to have strong feelings one way or another. You either love it or you hate it, and there's very few people that are like meh. You have very strong feelings. You either played through it, or you quit, or spite played it.
We didn't really touch on it because we've been like off on our tangent of the morality and everything of this show. I just wanted Tony's opinion on the episode, like second to last, I think was the flashback episode where
Fantastic.
Pedro came back. You liked that one?
Oh, it was awesome, dude. The birthdays, yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was done really well,
Mm.
and I'm glad it didn't get spoiled for me because I saw a side by side of the video gameplay
Mm.
Mhm.
and the show with the space shuttle scene.
Mhm.
And it was awesome because I was like, it was such a fun, cool part of that episode. And I'm like, did this really happen in the game? It's kind of wild for this to be in the game. And then when I saw the side by side, I'm like, that's fucking cool, man. Like,
Yeah, they did that. Yeah.
dude, they really nailed it. And it
Yeah.
was just, you know, I don't know why. End of season one, what's the final line he says? I got your baby girl. Because that's what he used to call his daughter. I don't know
Mhm.
why. It's always bothered me a little bit. Just his baby girl line. I don't know. Um, and then this season, the flashback showed how their relationship had grown. But each year for the birthday, how he kept stepping up and going further and further. It showed how much he absolutely loved her as his daughter and adored her and wanted to do anything he could for her and realized how important it was for her. And like, yeah, it was a really good episode. It was cute to see them together again, happy because we've seen them together so unhappy.
Right.
So it was nice to see them have like daddy-daughter days. And
Mhm.
And
then
as the years were going, it kept getting like further and further apart from each other.
right, little angsty teen time and stuff like that. But it was it was cool to see that father-daughter relationship. But yeah, I was happy about it. I didn't know if we were going to get that or not. I assumed there'd be at least one flashback scene with him, that they weren't just going to kill him episode 2, and then it was just like, wait, there's just no more Pedro Pascal this season at all. Because if anything, I feel like smart showrunner would say like, no, no, in case people fall off, I want people talking about how he was in this episode, and then
Right.
they'll come back and watch again. So
Mhm.
I kind of thought he'd be coming back at some point, but I didn't realize it would be that big of an episode and get that much of him into their character development. So yeah, that was probably uh, episode two, and then that episode were probably the two best episodes of the season, I think.
I think,
Um,
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the
they were.
consensus. Yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah, it was good. Okay, that's good to hear. I think it was good too. I know in the game the flashbacks are a little more spread out. This was a compiled version of all those together. I think it is. I think it was important to have that in the game and in the show to kind of not just let the end of their relationship be him lying on the floor and you know that she's pissed at him. She's been pissed at him for a long time, and he's like, in your mind as a game player and a viewer, you're like, I hope he didn't die thinking like that. This girl just hates him. You know
oh
what I
yeah,
mean? But to show us all the stuff they've been through and the porch scene,
the porch. So was that in the game as well?
Way at the
yeah,
end.
it's so
Okay.
that's at the end of the game.
Oh wow. So you have to see him die while they're mad at each other or while they're still in their tiff and
Mhm.
get to the end to find out, hey, they reconciled a bit
They were kind of okay at the
right
end.
before
Right.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of
It hits a lot. It hits a lot different when you've been through everyone's story.
yeah.
Like when you've gone through everything that is to come and
Yeah.
happened, and then you kind of get that realization and where they were and stuff.
Hey, speaking of what's to come, I appreciate you guys not spoiling anything major for me or anyone else right now with the rest
No,
of the games, the second game and next season coming up.
Yeah, no, I mean,
no.
honestly, I'm excited for season three. I'm curious of how they're gonna do the other side, since clearly they ended this season with Seattle going back to Seattle day one and having Abby wake up. So clearly we're gonna have some Abby centric episodes. I just don't know
Yeah.
how deep they're gonna go
Did they
with
say
Abby.
how did they say how many they're doing or not yet? Because I thought this was going to be 10 and it was 7. So it's like
I would bank on another 7 for the next season. I think
then
the roles for season 3 I think are just going to kind of be reversed. You're going to get a heavy dose of Abby,
yeah.
and Ellie's going to be sprinkled in when their paths cross, and then at the end it might come back to present day.
Well,
Uh,
that's I don't want it to take that many. How many days were they in Seattle? 3?
so far,
Okay. So Abby gets her first 3 episodes of just the Abby show and then
you want to
it
get back to the theater and see what happens to after Jesse.
100
Yeah,
100%, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the last episode or 2 episodes of the season
Hmm.
back at the theater. I want that to be episode 4.
They definitely still have a lot of game to tell,
Do
so
that. Okay.
they
yeah,
have to.
and Abby almost has more story than Ellie did. So there
Wi-
felt like there was so much more, but that's because you didn't know who she was. So like Ellie, you had a whole first game. You kind of knew what she was doing. She was very focused, where the Abby stuff was like, okay, let's get to know this girl, and you're just like, so there's a lot more to it, which I don't know, but they could probably fit in 3 episodes.
So without giving anything away, if you guys can, well, you can tell I'm straight up asking this. Where was Ellie or was Abby near the hospital when it went down with the Fireflies and Joel?
I don't think they ever really specified that. I know.
Does she see her dad?
They never showed. I don't remember actually if
Okay.
they ever show that. I
I
know
don't
they
even.
did in the
I'm
show.
wondering if they're going to show in the show that catalyst of that moment she has where it's like, okay, or did she just get the secondhand information and get
They
angry?
sh-
Yeah,
Either way, it's valid. I was
yeah.
just
On the show
um
that we all saw it on the show, they have her step into the surgery room and see her dad on the floor.
oh
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the game, I don't remember if that was
Okay.
ever a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
And then how many years has gone by before she gets revenge?
5.
That's a long time.
Hmm. You got to
Yeah, I know.
assume that.
I know. I stay mad at stuff for like 20 minutes. So the idea of staying mad at someone for 5 years and wanting to be like,
Uh,
yeah, let me go keep trying to find revenge. I feel like at some point I'd be like, you know what?
no, I'm just surprised it took 5 years for her to get to him. Not that I guess she had
How do you find him? How do you find
train.
someone in a
Yeah,
disconnected world?
you
Yeah,
know,
she had to finally put information together. Maybe it took 5 years, and
yeah,
also she's 5 years younger, so she's probably still a kid. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Once
that's
she
true.
gets a little older, crazy.
Yeah, in the video game, Abby's buff as fuck, so she spent those 5 years getting ripped. There's a lot of people who don't like skinny Abby. It is a little jarring.
Yeah, they just wanted Caitlin Dever. She's right for
Yeah,
the role so far.
yeah. I always enjoy Caitlin Dever since I first saw her on Justified,
Justified.
killing it
Hmm.
Killing.
back then.
What's her face? That lady.
Moonshine Mary.
Yep.
You guys remember?
Little
That's
arsenic in that
not the
glass.
name.
That's not her name, but we can both picture her face right now.
Oh yeah, I love that actress, and yeah, she was always had that like moonshine that she would poison people with.
Yep.
Wasn't that the same actress from The Leftovers? And she was,
Mhm.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. She's in stuff. She was in True Detective season 1.
Yep.
Who was she in the leftovers?
Oh, she was one of the main. She was one of the main. Those we,
Leftovers.
yeah,
It's
one
a
of the
different
main.
lady.
No, it isn't.
Yep, it is.
We'll settle this later.
Yeah,
They
we'll do this off air. So I don't know if there's any
was
final
that the
thoughts.
signal to drop it, Chris? You said, "Well, we're gonna do this off air."
That was
Drop it.
drop it, drop it. No, that was my ear itched, and I was trying to scratch it and forgot people could see me. The Last of Us season 2, probably divisive. Still enjoyed it. I don't want to end this with people thinking that I'm a hater of really anything, but um,
Well,
it was a good ride.
shows usually don't invoke this much conversation from us or people, so that's kind of like the sign of a good
Right.
show. You know, that at least if you're talking about it, that means it means something. You know.
Yeah, I've watched other shows that are recently aired that will not be named that I could just go on rants
So
about.
you're talking about her from the leftovers.
We said we were going to do this off air.
I'm not
That's not who I was thinking of.
from the leftovers.
Yeah.
No,
She's the main lady who walks around.
I know who you're talking
There were a
about.
lot of main ladies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of main people. That was an ensemble cast in the Leftovers.
You need to calm
Leftovers.
down.
That's the sitcom version. The Leftovers. So while Tony keeps looking up what we're doing with that, let us
Yeah.
know what you thought of The Last of Us if you made it this far past our rants, my rant, whatever. You can hit us up on social media. We are all over it at Raised A Geek. You can also shoot us an email at raisedageek@gmail.com. And you can also see our smiling, wonderful faces at YouTube at Raised A Geek. We are everywhere, so definitely join the conversation. We'll be back next week talking about something. I can't tell. Something. We haven't discussed it. We'll discuss
Probably
that when
good.
we discussed about Peach T's appearance in Last of Us or Leftovers.
Peach teas? That's what you called her?
Yeah, she had the moonshine, and she was, oh no, apple pie. You want my apple pie? And then she was
Chris, don't ever
poisoning
say
people.
it again.
Huh?
Don't ever say it again.
My apple pie?
You want my apple pie?
You want my apple pie? So I think we can't recover to end this show. So I think that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raised A Geek, I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
And I'm Tony.
And thanks for checking out the show.
Where geek is all we speak.